Hey everyone, I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to all for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone sends and shares with me. From the heart, I appreciate every one of you. Also, do please like, share, subscribe if the message is somewhat to your liking. Gracias. Well, getting into what I want to talk on today. Today, I want to kind of share the walk of a good camarada, well, at least at one point, right? And how we kept bumping into each other throughout our system time, right? Just how things develop in different scenarios, per se. But it's the homie Payaso from A-town, Merced. He was from A-town Dukes, though. Again, this is in 96 when we were in Quinton together. When I got to Quinton, he was actually already there. He was in the third tier. I went to 181 with Raul, right? And anyways, we would get close because we would end up doing a mission on the fifth tier together, which, I'm not going to really get into details on that. I don't glorify on things like that, but it was just basically someone there that got or had some funny charges on his paperwork. So me and him, we met in the fifth tier and we boogied, we took care of business, right? And anyways, certain things like that, it bonds camaradas, that's a fact. You can't play with feelings, but regardless, But anyways, as time would go by, he would learn that I tatted, right? So he wanted me to do something on his back. And at the moment, all we had was pick, right? I used to make these picks, the three-head picks, to do letterings and make ink. So I put A-Town Dukes on his back, and well, he liked it, that lighting and stuff, and then he was telling me to do two-thirds of a sleeve on him, and we would eventually end up getting a motor back there, right? But we didn't have uh, we didn't have actions of needles or anything, right? So he came up on a copper thing, and he wanted me to tag him with copper, and I told him, Chales, I ain't gonna do that. I disculpame, hopefully down the line I can tattoo on you, evil stuff, payasos, things like that. I could do. Other than that, cultura, I love cultura or to tat, but let's just say it brings problems, right? Nevertheless, he would end up getting a bulldog to do it on him, and it came out firmes, at first, but that copper, his whole arm got infected, you know. I remember he almost lost it. But anyways, I don't want to dwell on that. As we were in Quinton, I'm not gonna say he backed away. It's just, the homie, he had life too, but like I stated before, I was a wild one, up until a point they pulled my ears. And even after, I got involved in a lot of stuff, like after the solo incident from Sanford, nah, a lot of people were like, like, damn, they couldn't believe a little ass dude like me at the moment went after a big dude like that and buckled him down, right? And, people were trying to get us in Quinton. To me, it didn't matter. You're doing time. You're stuck doing time for life. So whatever you do, it is what it is, right? That's the way I used to think. But anyways, from there I would end up going to Tracy, as you guys know, my little walk. The next time we ran into each other was in Ironwood. The homie was right there in 2 block, and I was in 3 block. I didn't express to him that I had a jardín or nothing. It was just, hey, ¿qué hubo, homie? Mucho gusto volverte a ver, and them type of things. And anyways, I asked him how his arm was from them payasos, and you could tell it faded away, but it was, I got all infected and stuff. So I would tell him, hey, un día de estos, try to sneak in the block and I'll retouch that for you, you know? So I did. And I had a lot of problems with him there in the sense of, there was a homie Smiley from Merced, and no, excuse me, from Madera. Smiley from Madera. And he was not going to say 5150, but he was definitely not all there, right? I don't want to disrespect in that sense, but and I did understand, like Ironwood was an area set trip kind of thing. I never played it, to be sincere, because I wouldn't tolerate nobody playing it on me, But I did understand that the way things were handled there under respect was if one individual from a certain area had something coming, that area took care of their own, right? Per se. And it was just out of respect because there were a few incidents, due to allowing, for example, rival areas to put hands on a homie from a different area. So we kept it like that. And what consisted in our area was from Bakersfield up. And needless to say, the first time Smiley had to get Southsided, right? So the homie Payaso, Creeper from the town, they went and did it. And I tried to speak with the camarada and be like, hey, if we gotta slow your roll, stop gambling. If you don't have feria, stop horse playing with individuals that don't play with you, fool. He was just doing them way out things that, you know, lead you into crashing in prison. Horse playing, gambling, picking up debts. They're gonna eventually get old and you're gonna get removed. It's just facts. No matter where you're at. And anyways, the second time he would do, it was a combo of things, right? He disrespected a camarada from Florencia and owed him feria, and then basically try to play dumb and basically tell him come collect it. So by him saying that, of course, me having that jardín, you have to do things wisely. First and foremost, I ain't gonna bother terco with it till it's done. That was part of holding a position, so you're able to resolve problems without having to go to that extent and bother, right? So my solution was okay. You went out your way, you disrespect the homies from Florencia, okay. I gave the homies from Florencia first dibs. Hey, the homie don't want to listen. He has a chacala coming. So out of respect, you guys are up to bat. I told the individual, the main individual he owed and disrespected, and he chose another homie. They went and they checked the homie, right? They whacked him a couple times, and Payaso got upset. He really got upset in the sense of like, hey, homie, how you gonna let Southside LA deal with a camarada from the area and this? And I told him, look, miss me with that. I have this jardín as a whole. There's certain things here out of respect, which I try to uphold them for respect. But at the end of the day, if someone has to bounce, it don't matter where you're from, you're gonna bounce, and camaradas are gonna do it. Period. That includes myself, right? Cause we don't play that area trip, you know. And anyways, another time you could say he understood, but I knew right away he was upset, as he was upset for other reasons, right? For example, I am played that favoritism, you know. To me, a homie was a homie, period, point blank. I understood the guidelines, right, and the misunderstandings, and for example, me allowing other areas to put hands on homies for chacadas that weren't serious, how it could lead to something bigger because it was Ramfla trip there. I understood of that, but at the end of the day, for example, when 805 went against IE, they all got green lighted across the board. There was no, oh, once they hit the hole, oh, I understand. No, I allowed it on the yard out of respect, certain things, which is cool. But at the end of the day, when that happened, and I tried to put a stop to it two, 3 times, and they went ahead and handled their business, well, okay, I also handled mine, and I sent palabra back there. They were through. We can't go around whacking camaradas or putting hands on camaradas, regardless of where they're from. But anyways, getting back to Payaso, I would end up leaving him there in Ironwood. He was one of the individuals, that I remember my home with Creeper. He was my celly, right? And when the issue came about Güero, Creeper was insisting, even on the yard, like, hey, fool, let me let me write it out with you. And I told him, no, nah, fool, you're not to get in it. Hey, but that cat Güero walks around with a lot of homies. Okay, that's cool. Let him, let him. I won't go solo. And that's, if something we go to the hole, I'll answer up for it. He will answer up for it. And I don't want you to hit back there and then later on we separate and you don't have nowhere to answer to. It's going to lead you to get washed up, fool. Understand that. That's why I say it's difficult to live with one of your homies. But anyways, Payaso was also in that stage, like he has a lot of people. At the end of the day, me and Muero went at it. Nobody jumped in, period, point blank. And I would end up leaving from there to the Tehachapi, Corcoran. an A artist. When I heard Payaso was there, he was literally in two right, and I shot a namapila of respect. Hey, Q, homie, is me, ta 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 ta, the whole cha cha. And if you need anything, get a so and so and so and so, and I'm here para lo que se ocupe. It's just a respect thing, right? He said, Simon, well, right there in two right, someone plugged him in, right? Someone plugged him in with Fox, and Fox, he's a smart individual. I know recently there's been a lot said about Fox, but it's just jealousy speaking, right? They keep saying he's on this, he's on the shine. I'm not gonna debate that. I'll allow them to put the narrative out, right? But they don't call him Fox just because he's dumb, Like I said before, just because someone surpasses you, that's about 30 times more things than you ever did when you were there. Does not make them anything. It does make them better than you, though, At least in that world. But anyways, he would get in touch with Fox. Fox was trying to soda up, add water, and I guess once the homie left the shoe, to Sentinella, he had him hold a position for him, which is good, But what's Calipat and Sentinella? There's a lot of camaradas politicking, they're hard persons to hold a position in the sense that even though they're all camaradas for different pilis, they're all out to make a name for themselves on the expense of another camarada. It's just the reality of it, right? And it was the time of the shoes, For example, the brownie points came with you shooting them a peel up there. Hey, Fox's Soldado here? Yeah, he was messing up and I had to take care of it. I removed and whacked them for this and this reasons. So you're trying to earn them points with your deal, right? Which in reality it won't earn you anything because you weren't going to hold the jardín by yourself anymore. I understand the days where Llavero system, you held the whole prison for him. You're still stuck sharing a seat with couple pilis, right? It was just a mindset camaradas took, right? Payaso would end up going at it with one of the Ayala's soldados that was on the yard. I believe he was from Mesa, if I'm not mistaken. Grumpy, Grumpy from Mesa, right? And they went at it for dumb stuff. Be honest with you, I guess there was a wood buying from both of them, and they didn't know when they found out. They both felt some type of way. They was The other was stepping on the other one's toes, selling to what belonged to the other. If you guys get what I'm trying to say, which it wasn't the case. It was a wood went where he wanted to go, and he had that right. You know, it's another example of how you get claim of something that in reality, you can't. We can't even tell a different race, even if they're allowed to buy from us or do deals. Hey, you have to strictly buy from me. That's their decision, right? But anyways, they went at it with pieces. And Grumpy would, I don't know if he got scared, I don't know what happened, but when they hit the hole, when they called out to him to send his paperwork, his lockup order, he didn't answer. He did not answer no more, and he would lock it up, straight up. I don't know the reasons behind it. Only he could explain them, but it was behind definitely him going at it with Payaso, and Payaso representing Fox, and Grumpy representing the Pili from San Diego, right? And basically, Payaso kept pushing. And in reality, it's because he didn't really know what time it was in the system, too. He, I don't know how he got introduced to Fox. I don't know the promises. I don't know none of that, right? That was their business. I know at one time I heard directly from Fox he had a way in to add water and he was going to utilize it, you know. And the only homie I heard that was in touch with him from there was Payaso. So I don't know the promises there. I don't know. But anyways, Payaso would keep pushing, right? And it's how funny things work. At the time, you would hit up another main line, issues would uprise, and he would get validated. He would end up hitting Pelican Bay, just at the time that Fox is there. So, there was uh, there was a lot of questions that needed to be answered. They weren't even that bad. I'll be honest with you. It was just Hector asking, "Hey, what happened with Grumpy? What was the real issue behind it?" Yes, I know the details because I got a payaso because there was a history there, right? And he basically told me exactly what happened with the gabacho. Everything was going good, but this gabacho bought grams from him on the spot. Then all of a sudden, Grumpy got in his ear and tried to take him from him, and it was dumb because asking around, it just I got asked to verify it, and once it was verified, it was Nada Gabacho did that all the time. He bought a couple grams from here and a couple grams from here, and that was him. That these vatos found out when they did and felt some type of way, that was on them. And you see what happened? Two seats were lost. Hector's seat was lost on that yard, and Fox's seat was lost on that yard. That means you stop making money for both them Billies. You stop making money for the EME, period, right? Over BS. And guess what happened? You know, after the homie, I'm not gonna say he was all there, cause me personally, I don't like that set tripping at all. And him trying to push on me in Ironwood or even address me with it, not push, excuse me. I told him that day, you ever address me with this, I'm gonna take offense to it, homie. Y vamos a salir mal. And we don't need to take it nowhere. Vamos a salir mal. We are gonna take it in the cell. And as you guys know, we don't put hands on each other. And I told him, I could show respect, but I don't like this. I put up with it to bring peace, but I don't like it. But anyways, then when he had that seat, to not comprehend that you cannot tell a wood where to buy or where to do things, and actually put steel in a homie and have the homie put steel in him, whatever. And Grumpy was weak regardless. Hit the shoe and he locked it up. Again, all I can think of is he was smarter than Payaso. He seen what was forthcoming for what occurred, right? Maybe he hit the hole, had some time to reflect, and said, I've messed up. Payaso didn't have that. So, to make a long story short, you know, Payaso stayed in the program and everything was well. But since I was helping with the issue and Fox was in touch with Toño, we were doing other things. I'll just say that with Fox. Fox told me, like, look, Chino, Payaso's through. He don't have a celly right now. There's no reason to it. I'm still trying to get in that water. So I'm pushing for that. But at the end of the day, if someone gets in a cell or something happens, I already put the appeal out. He's done. So what could I say as a sureño? For once, I understood folks. And I understood he had to make up for that mistake with Hector, you know. And anyways, they would end up 6-2 in his validation. He would end up hitting Salinas. Yeah, Salinas. The man he hit Salinas, and Amapil was already following him from Fox, his own Theo, and he got removed. He got whacked and removed. And you see, that's what happens. You know, a lot of people don't really tell you about or take the time to give you the proper klecha, right? But it's easy, especially now, to make a bunch of promises to a Pili and get that luz verde. To them is what they want. And another thing is you being sincere, knowing you just don't have that type of mentality to set the chips where they need to be set. And believe me, there isn't going to ever be no hesitation from a Pili to remove a camarada, even though you're underneath them. Especially again, like I said, Fox is a smart individual when it comes to keeping it cool with his brothers. I'll put it like that. You know, I know there's been a lot of talk about he has a big mouth. Woo, 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 woo. Hey, didn't he just beat his case? Or am I mistaken? Didn't Fox just beat his case? Man, or did he tell on the whole state of California? But anyways, this was just an in look on how a camarada, took on too much responsibilities. And that's the in look on this. That's the message. If you're prison bound and you go to prison, like I said before, buck up, suit up, y vámonos. There's no room for going sideways, right? So the best option is to allow people to guide you, to give you clecha. I minimize the back and forth when that surface it with me and Payaso and Ironwood. Believe me, I'm not gonna glorify on the stuff I used to do and how I used to act, but there was some strong stuff I said to him that Maybe I was on the wrong, right? But at the end of the day, that is a big problem, the system, and especially now with the Pilis out, they walk around with their entourage from their town, from their area. If there's two, three of them, you know, maybe unnoticed to them, they're playing that Ramfla trick. They're inputting it more. We can never forget that all that area barrio stays at the gate. It's just about Sur 13, Campol, you know. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of camaradas that fall for that misunderstanding of how the ladder works. From the gate, we all start as outsiders, but the ladder does have steps you need to earn. I know there's a lot of people that come on YouTube and all of a sudden they will come camaradas and I had all this and this and that, but don't know the definition of a campanada. Don't know the definition of a campolero, sureño. Basically, be careful with that. But that's the message on this one. If you're already headed that way, just pick up clecha. All clecha is good clecha. Just gotta dissect it and take what works for you. You know, because believe me, there's a lot of people that's gonna misguide you and earn brownie points by taking your career, especially when it comes to pilis. That tecato mentality holds no brakes on taking a camarada out. It's about their money and what they want. So, again, this just, you could say, it's an insight on the best thing that I could advise someone to ask me for that's going to start doing their time is sit down and take lecha, you know, before you jump the gun to everything. Even if you're on the streets running your neighborhood, calling things, just sit down and analyze how the programs run. But anyways, sorry for making this long. I have chemo tomorrow Monday, and I just want to pre-record something for you guys. I hope the message was understood. If you haven't been there, you have time. You enjoy freedom. Enjoy those that are true to you, and there's no drama between it. In that sense that you have to 24/7 watch your back. Stay true to yourself and loyal to your loved ones.